Scow with Utah State University Extension. I'm coming to you today to talk about chicks. So this is March 31st in 2020. We have a lot of people that are buying chickens for the first time, hoping to get eggs down the road or possibly a source of meat from these chicks. So when we go to the farm store to get our chicks, there's a couple things we need to have ready at home before we even think about buying chicks. So once you buy chicks, you are now the mother hen. You need to provide everything that the mother hen would provide for them, or they're not going to survive. So we need, of course, to have water, food, shelter. The fourth one that most people forget about is heat. So on top of the water, shelter, food, we need to have some kind of warmth for them as well. So let's talk about water first. Water is going to be the #1 nutrient that they need. They have to have that before anything else. So chicks, when they are shipped to the farm store or they're shipped directly to your house from the hatchery, they go a good while without water, and they need to have some water as soon as they get out of that box. At the farm store, they'll have some water, but if they're just barely getting them in, they may not have water for very long, and you need to have that provided as soon as they get home. So water is the #1 nutrient. It needs to be clean, it needs to be cool, and good tasting water. We don't want to have anything in the water that's going to deter from the taste, so sometimes we're recommended to put a vitamin supplement into their water. That's not necessarily necessary, especially right at first. Maybe down the road it'd be good to add, but we need to make sure there's not anything in the water that's going to taint the taste for them. So I have just an example of a waterer. These are pretty inexpensive. They're at any farm store. They have 2 parts to them. They have the reservoir and they have a tray for the water to filter down into. This one's empty, but the idea is you'll fill this up with water. I have 2 of them in here. I'll fill this one up as soon as we're done with the video, so they have 2 sources of water that in case one gets knocked over or one gets really dirty, they have a good clean source of water. You'll want to clean the water out once a day. The chicks they like to play. They'll get in here, they'll play, and they'll probably poop in the water, so you'll want to clean that at least once a day. And also get the wood shavings out. So these are pretty inexpensive. They're, I think, $5 for the whole thing. I think it's $2.50 for each part. They have different sizes. There's different models or different types that you can buy, but they're pretty inexpensive and something you need to have. In worst case scenarios, you can put just a dish of water out for them. Keep in mind that you will need to change the water more than once a day if they're going to just have a dish. They will play in it, walk in it, poop in it. Everything else in it, so you want to change a little bit more, but these are a great option. You can also raise them. You can put blocks underneath them as they get older that they can access the water a little easier. So the next thing I want to talk about is feed. So this is just a typical feeder. You can tell kind of what's happened along the edges. They do climb on here, they'll perch on here, and they'll poop. Eventually they'll get some poop in the food, so I'll change this out once every few days, or once it gets low, I'll dump it out and put some new in it. This is just a typical tray feeder. They have some that are kind of like the hopper feeders I just showed you with the water. Those have feed in them with a tray similar to these. Mostly they'll just stick their head in. They can't get their whole body in there. That's the idea of this grate on top of it. There's a lot of different options out there. This is a large one. They have some that are quite a bit smaller, depending on how many chicks you're gonna get. There are some that are just open. Keep in mind as well that they will play in it and poop in it, and you'll have to clean it a little bit more if it's an open tray, or even just a dish. And worst case scenarios, or if you're on a really tight budget, a dish will work. Just don't put as much in it and clean it out a little bit more frequently. The other thing I wanted to talk about are the brooder itself, the thing that makes up the brooder for the shelter that keeps them contained. This is just a really inexpensive fine mesh wire that I've tied together at the ends. I can roll this up, I can store it. We do chickens a lot, so every year I can roll it up and I'll reuse it next year. Other options that you can use something as simple as a cardboard box. They don't have to be very expensive. It can be whatever you have on hand. I've seen people use a kiddie pool before, those blue pools that you can buy at Walmart for your kids that are really inexpensive. The lip's only about that tall, and you can tell that the chicks, once they get older, they'll be able to jump over that. You can line that with cardboard just to keep them in. This is a temporary living space. This isn't the coop yet. This is something they have to live in before they're ready to live in the coop. They're going to be in this brooder for about 4 weeks. It takes about 4 weeks on average for chicks to develop their feathers fully. That way they can hold in the heat a little bit better, they're more protected, they can be put out in the coop sometime after 4 weeks. So these are just something that's really inexpensive. Some people will make a really fancy one out of wood that's kind of a permanent structure that they'll use every year, but it's up to you what you'd like to use. This is just something just an idea, something that's cheap and something you can use for sure. And the next thing we want to talk about is heat. This is the #1 problem that we see. There's a lot of variables to it, and there's some options. There's some really neat options too to provide that warmth and heat. So when you take the chick home, if you look at chickens in their natural environment, they're going to be hiding under their mom at night. They'll be trying to keep warm. If it's a rainy, breezy day, they're going to be tucked up under their mom's feathers because the down that they have on and that little fluff that makes the chicks so cute, it doesn't hold in heat very well. It does keep them warm, but it doesn't hold in the heat, and the wind will cut right through it, and they can get too cold and they can die because of that. So having a heat source is really important. So there's 2 options that we want to talk about today. One, the most common and traditional, oldest, tried and true option is a heat lamp, and that's what this contraption is right here. So this is more than just a bulb. You can't use a fluorescent bulb. It has to be something that puts off some heat. So if you put your hand underneath it, you can feel that it's actually making it warm. Those would probably be a good light to use. They don't have to be these auburn red lamps. They can be a white lamp as long as it's a filament bulb or a gas bulb that's going to produce some of that heat. Actual heat bulbs that they sell, some of them will be an auburn color. Again, they can be clear, but as long as they're putting off that heat for your chicks. Your heat lamp, these are kind of neat because you can well, they really need to be movable. If they're too close, the chicks aren't going to be able to stand underneath it. It's too hot. Their optimal temperature for their body is between 85 degrees and 115 degrees at the very most, Fahrenheit. So we want to keep it somewhere in that nice buffer zone. If it's too close, the chickens aren't going to be underneath it. You'll notice that they'll be in a ring around the light. They're not going to be hiding underneath it because it's just too hot. And kind of like us, we don't like to be out in 115 degree weather. They're not going to be under there either. So it needs to be close enough, but not too close. It needs to be close enough that they'll be warm. If it's too far away, the opposite happens. They'll be clustered underneath that thing, climbing on top of each other, trying to get as close as they can to that heat source to stay warm. So that's a little bit on heat lamps. Make it so they're adjustable. I put this one on a pipe. It has a wire underneath it. I can raise that and lower it as I need to. You can put them on a chain with a hook. You can just raise that each notch as you need to. Some of them come, this is another one. It comes with a clamp. You can see that. And it has a swivel on it that you can adjust so you can get it closer or farther away as you need to. The other option I wanted to bring up, this is a newer option, and if you're going to use a cardboard box for a brooder, this is the better option to go with. This is a heat plate. So I'll bring that so you can see a little bit better. So a heat plate, it even has a picture of a mother hen on this one. But a heat plate, there's no light that's produced from this, it just produces some heat off of this plate. The legs are adjustable. It needs to be adjusted so it's about at the back of the chick, height-wise, so they can run underneath it, they can touch it, they can get the heat from that. And they'll hunker down and stay underneath these. But you can raise it as they get bigger so they can continue to go underneath it and get that heat for that first 4 weeks that they're going to be in your brooder. But these are great options. One of the problems with the heat lamp is they do get really hot, especially as you're really close to it. If you're using a cardboard box, as I said before, if it gets too close to that cardboard box, it can cause a fire in your garage. So these are a great option if you're going to use a cardboard box. They don't cost too much, but it might be one of your more expensive purchases to keep them warm. But using a cardboard box, these are a great option because they're not going to get too hot and cause your cardboard box to start on fire. So. Okay, the last thing I want to touch on is make sure you have some nice wood shavings in the bottom. They're really inexpensive. You get a bag that'll last you the 4 weeks, depending on how many chicks you have. The bedding is just to absorb any fecal matter, any spilt water, so it's a cleaner environment for the chicks to live and be happy in. They also like to play in it. I like to watch the chicks. It's fun just to see them run around, play with each other, kick up the wood shavings or sawdust, whatever you have. Preferably wood shavings, something a little bit bigger. It's not going to create dust for them. But that's basically the elements that you're going to need for a brooder. They're pretty inexpensive to make, but it's something that you need to have ready for when you bring chicks home. Especially if this is something your first time, just make sure you're going to be successful. Try and have everything lined up before you get them home. And we wish you luck with the chicks. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to your local USU Extension office. We're always happy to answer questions. We also have a website at Usu.Poultry.Edu that you can go to learn a little bit more about chicks. And wish you luck and have a great time.